Alright guys, Kremp again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying all day so far. That highly anticipated $10,000 wager between Shotzzy and Kaysan that goes down last night, and it not exactly ending in a way that massively surprised us, playing across many different games. Kaysan absolutely getting well started by Shotzzy on many occasions. Loads of clips to dive through over the coming minutes, but also big talks as well on the map set we're going to have going into Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Very much into your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. First of all, Kenny's here like talking about hot yoga being the absolute end of him. He's clearly having these off-season investigations. You know how it goes. The pros do something in the off-season. They get used to it. They're having a good time. But let's talk about the maps, because Modern Warfare 3, the final seasons have a lower amount of 6v6 maps because Treyarch apparently have taken some of them for the Black Ops 6 launch seasons. So this is very interesting to think about, right? Treyarch's maps in the beta, not necessarily the greatest that I've ever played. Skyline is pretty good. Like, I would say okay to pretty good. Definitely the best of what we had. The other maps, you know, I don't really want to talk about too much, to be perfectly honest. However, things are going to change, hopefully, when the beta ends, which it now has, and of course the full game launches. We saw yesterday a list of maps that Treyarch came out with, which are effectively all the maps for release, and many of those are medium-sized, although many of those we've seen in the beta have been on the smaller end. So, you know, I'm hopeful that when the game launches, some of those maps that we looked at yesterday are actually going to be pretty good, and at least some of them are going to be viable for competitive play. But there's only so many ways you can design a map, and it seems like the general philosophy around map design over like maybe even what Activision are forcing on the development teams is different to how it used to be several years ago. And I don't know if the developers have like lost their touch or something, but like the maps that they're creating now compared to what they were creating, you know, even like 5 years ago, but certainly 10 years ago, seems to be a different, you know, a bit of a different story. I'm not going to talk about COD Ghost because, yeah, that was a disaster. But the question is really whether we can get something like this. People are saying, look, Treyarch, you know what to do. All you've got to do is bring back some classic maps. And I don't really have a problem with this. I know that people say, oh, it's lazy or whatever, and I get that. But I don't really have an issue with playing the game, a different game, on a legendary classic map, which you know is going to play well for the game modes. Even assume that we are still playing Control for the new game, which we may well be, then, you know, Raids played very well in Control back in Black Ops Cold War, which was, you know, maybe not a surprise, because Raids always been a phenomenal map, but it wasn't played in Control in Black Ops 2, and it was played in CTF and Hardpoint and Search and Destroy, of course, whereas in Black Ops Cold War, they brought it back and played Control, and it worked perfectly well. So this is the other point that you've got to realise. To be fair, maps like Frequency on the top right-hand side here from Black Ops 4, that was a Control map, and, you know, that was the first game that introduced Control right in Black Ops 4. Yes, 5v5, Specialist, it was very good at that game. The last couple of games, maybe it's been somewhat more boring, but there's a debate on this in the community, really, right? Because I think we do want to see new maps, right? Like, that is for the best to have some sort of nuance to the game on some level, but at the same time, having the old school maps come back, no problem with that as far as I'm concerned. Some of them, I mean, I'm personally of the opinion that I think Raid should probably be in every single COD title and played every year in competitive. I don't have an issue with that, but you know, maybe some people do, and I understand it. But also, I've been watching Counter-Strike for many years, and I've been watching the same maps for like a decade at this point, and yeah, they get changed and refined and stuff over time, but they don't really do that in COD. They just, you know, the map is the map, and you get what you get for the next year, and I understand that as well. But you know, this is Standoff bottom left, also from Black Ops 2, which was remastered a couple of times in Cold War, and it also came back in Black Ops 3 as a map called, I think it was Outlaw back in Black Ops 3, and it was Empire that Raid came back as in Black Ops 3. Quick little Black Ops 3 mention, why not? And then Hacienda on the bottom right hand side, a map that we're pretty sure is coming back for the new title. But this is another question, right? Because this year's game, to the credit of the Sledgehammer developers, they put together genuinely good DLC maps that they brought in. Vista, Rio, and Six Star, obviously. Vista genuinely felt to me like a Treyarch map, I'm not gonna lie. That feels like a map that Treyarch would have designed. Six Star as well to some degree. Rio maybe slightly less so, but even then, there were lots of elements of Rio that even I think Sledgehammer basically said this, that they'd taken lots of inspiration from classic COD maps. There were clearly parts of those maps that were, you know, taken from what we've seen in Call of Duty past. I mean, like the middle of Rio seemed a lot like Plaza from Black Ops 2 and stuff like this, and there were other elements elements as well that were relatively similar. So Sledgehammer did a great job here, and I'm straight up, Shotzzy said this recently, if it wasn't for those maps, this past season would have been, you know, a disaster class. And you can argue that Skid Row maybe should never have left the map pool. I think that's a fair argument too. But, you know, because I actually kind of like Skid Row Hardpoint and Skid Row Search, I think it was too bad. But it is what it is, they got rid of that. Thankfully, Invasion Hardpoint was eventually gone as well. And if not for these maps, it would have been even worse to watch than you could argue that it was already. But I definitely think these maps kind of saved the game's life cycle on some level, and maybe they could just use them again. And that is the point that Charlie and Into were mentioning, is that apparently some of those maps that potentially were designed with competitive in mind by Sledgehammer, Treyarch said, hey, can we like borrow these or basically just steal them, right, and use them for our game instead? And apparently that's what's going to be happening. So that's why there were fewer maps towards the end of the last game's life cycle, and therefore potentially more to come here for the Treyarch game. So I think that's a pretty good sign, and it will be pretty cool for the game and for the competitive scene actually if Treyarch and Sledgehammer, the two developers that have definitely done the most for competitive COD over the last few years, and the Sledgehammer devs deserve a lot of credit for what they tried their best to do with MW3 compared to what we had with MW2 the year before, I'd say, from a competitive perspective. If they're kind of like teaming up with Treyarch on some level, that's a good sign. And also, Treyarch, to be fair to them, have done the ranked mode for Sledgehammer's game for the last year. So maybe there's a bit of like, all right, we did your ranked, can you give us a couple of maps? And, you know, I'm down for that partnership, to be fair, because both those sets of devs seem to have, you know, a good idea in mind from at least the competitive perspective in parts. You're never going to get a perfect kind of application just because the game is not made for competitive players, but some developers do their best to make it work for both, and, you know, always going to commend that. Babylon is not going to be in competitive in the CDL rotation, but Nature was talking about it just because he reckons it could be a classic COD map in COD Future, as in, you know, brought back in multiple titles, a Nuketown, a shipment type thing. But, yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know whether you guys agree with Nature's take. Honestly, the replies were kind of mixed here, right? Between people who said that I see it, and people that he said, what is this guy smoking, even though now he's in Dallas, Texas, and technically isn't allowed to, but you know how it is. But let's talk about this Shotzzy thing. The 1v1 versus Kaysan goes down yesterday, and yeah, 10k on the line. Obviously, we've got Zuma kind of refereeing it or whatever, and like, this went pretty much as you might have expected. They played across multiple different games, and I've got a few clips to share for you guys as well, because this is pretty entertaining stuff. To be fair, Dashy as well was saying, hey, like, how come Shotzzy gets to win this free cash? Like, why can't I come and play, right? So, you know, that's what Kaysan says. Tomorrow we're back on Twitch for Eastern for a free 10k versus Shotzzy, and Dashy's like, wait, I want those 10 racks. What's going on? How'd you get in on this? Like, what are we doing here? So they played a few games. Obviously, the Halo was, yeah, not that much. They Counter-Strike 2, and then I think they got to the Valorant in the end, and I'm pretty sure that's when Shotzzy put the whole situation to bed. So a couple of clips to share, but watching Shotzzy in Halo is still completely ludicrous, to be honest.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
Did you get flashes on?
Nah, he didn't.
He just got mixed.
You didn't?
Nah, he didn't get flashed.
Oh my god!
Oh, he was lining it.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Yo!
Oh man.
Yo, it's gotta be Rocket League after this. Oh my
Bro,
god!
I swear, Kaysan, 4 you might think is bad. I promise you, like, this is so much better than I thought. You actually put on, bro, for the city.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh, Kaysan didn't lose his mind.
Not a good look.
That's
way,
insane.
Bro.
That's
No
insane.
way.
Go, go, go.
That's insane.
No.
That's
I want a
insane.
close half, Kaysan. I'm not even trolling. That's a good half.
Listen up.
No
Go, go
way,
before you
bro. No
Stay locked in by Wigman and
man.
Ghost.
Ah, that's fucked up. What's good,
my
Kirshner?
God, dude.
That's
That's about
fucked
it.
up, bro.
I'm out of here.
Oh, man.
What else, Freddy? What did I say?
Oh,
Don't
man.
mess with me.
GG's.
Oh my god!
Holy fuck, I just choked.
Hat off.
You're an asshole.
That was
GG's,
comedy, bro.
Kaysan.
Oh, man.
You are an asshole.
I want that wired.
Send me the fucking wire information.
I want that
bro.
wired.
Shotzzy's talked about this as well now for a good few years, and what the situation might be if he was to want to return to the Halo world. Definitely something he could do, and many of the Halo players have said that, wow, like when Shotzzy was over there, he was feared, and he was like 16 or 17 or something when he was playing Halo before he came to COD, and he was just absolutely terrorizing like veterans of the game, and you know, absolutely, this is just a joke, isn't it, from Shotzzy, and absolutely, if he wanted to come back and play again, I think the option, I mean, like, obviously a top team would pick him up if he wanted to come back and play. The reality is, unfortunately, for the way the Halo world works, it's just not really going to be a viable option. The game has been out now for a few years. They are going to do another game at some point soon. So, and maybe that's an opportunity, but I think COD is probably always going to be top of mind for Shotzzy, although he has said that, like, Halo is his favorite franchise. So if the opportunity arose to make a return, then maybe it could happen, and maybe his career is going to follow a similar trajectory to Formal, where, you know, he wins everything in COD, does it for, you know, maybe a decade or something, and then, you know, maybe at some point at the end of his career in COD decides, right, you know what, I'll go back to another game, I'll do that instead, because it could easily be Halo for him if you want it to be, and maybe it could be other games as well. Like, some of these guys, Dashy included, are just kind of like freaks of nature when it comes to gaming. Dashy's one of them, HyDra is definitely another as well, where they can pick up any game, it doesn't matter, keyboard and mouse control or whatever, they're going to be a joke at it. And well, this is another example from Dashy, just insane hand-eye coordination. I don't really understand how you could possibly be this good at so many different games, but it is what it is. And some entertaining clips there on Counter-Strike, and obviously Valorant, of course, was the game where Shotzzy closed out that championship victory against Kaysan there to close out the W for the 10k. So just before we close out the video, this I thought was pretty interesting, right? It also goes to show on a large level how many grand finals there actually were in these respective seasons, because back in Advanced Warfare, OpTic made a lot of grand finals. Formal was therefore in a lot of those grand finals. He had nearly 1,600 kills in grand finals in that Advanced Warfare season. Ghost had a fair few events as well. Of course, it was Complexity making a lot of those finals. Aches had 740. There's also the fact to consider that some games play faster than others. Like, it was possible in Advanced Warfare to literally drop 60 on a retreat hardpoints. That was doable. It was done by Formal. I'm pretty sure on a couple of occasions. So, you know, on some games, a 60 bomb is like, wow. On some games, a 35 bomb, 40 bomb is like, wow, that's mega impressive. So that's also a part to play as well here. But Black Ops 3, this is kind of the sad thing, the Black Ops 3 season, I'm talking about it again. But there just weren't as many events as there needed to be, right? And obviously Scump and OpTic made a lot of grand finals that year, but there just weren't that many grand finals to be made. Infinite Warfare was Scump, World War II was actually Gunless, even though there were lots of events in World War II, there were so many different grand finalists. The Gunless wasn't even in that many of them, but still topped the numbers. Same thing in Black Ops 4 as well, really. Like, it was all over the place, the start of that game, right? Especially the Fort Worth event, which was kind of surprising with lots of strange grand finalists in many ways. So that was actually the lowest ever at just 304 kills in a grand final over the course of the season, because, you know, the season was pretty mixed up. The same thing you can argue in MW2 as well. Vanguard was also aBeZy, despite winning 0 of those grand finals, which is pretty tough. Cold War was Simp, but you can also see the trend since the CDL for, you know, there's been no years with anything over 700. Even Cold War FaZe, where they were in like basically every final, you know, the most was only 600 kills. So it goes to show how few events we've had, really, relative to a season like Advanced Warfare, where Formal had 1,600 kills. Like, that's such an insane outlier, isn't it, for most grand finals kills in a season. And this year, again, FaZe made lots of finals, and Simp topped the numbers with 434, which, in the grand scheme of things, 434 is quite a lot of kills in grand finals. It just feels like nothing compared to 1,600 odds. So, you know, that's a record that's probably never going to be broken, unless, for some reason, in the next few years, the Call of Duty League changes quite dramatically in terms of the way the season is going to be structured. And also, I guess, the double best of 5, that plays a part. The fact that they could potentially play a 10-map final, that maybe did make a difference to some of these numbers. Nowadays, it's maximum of 7 maps in a grand final. Even, to be fair, a couple of years ago, it was 9 maps in a grand final, and still we didn't see a massive tick up in performance. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.